the issues that your opponents raise, obviously they're making you the target. And,
well, that's the good news is they think that I'm a threat. If they didn't think I was, they wouldn't mention me. So that's the good side of it. The bad news is you're the target and everybody's going to go after you. But, I'm able to handle myself, and I'm very proud of what I've done in life and my 12 years of experience in City Hall. I think you would agree the city is a lot better than when I found it. My company has done very well. I give away an enormous amount of money. And, am I perfect? No, I've made mistakes. And I think the key is, if you make a mistake, to be mature enough to learn from it, ask for forgiveness, give an apology, but change. You can't rewrite history. And I think too many people sit there and say, oh, I made a mistake, and then stop there. This mistake, then it hurts you twice. First thing, you made a mistake. Second thing is you're not going, and you're going to make another mistake. I've got to learn every time, and I've been confident in myself enough to know what I do well is I put teams together, and I ask people, and I delegate authority to go along with responsibility. And I'm not so proud that I think that I know everything. I think I can work harder than anybody else, but I'm certainly not the smartest guy in the room. I want to know, what did I do wrong, Al? You tell me. I'll change if I think it's the right thing to do, or if I don't, at least I'll know. I'll have another viewpoint.
Will you be attacking your opponents on some of their mistakes? Because they have some baggage
strategy
as well.
We'll see. I'd be happy to have some advice from you, however.
Well,
what would you do?
You know what I would do. What I've done when you were mayor. When I disagreed, I was very vocal about it. And one thing I would do is probably fire back, but you've got to do.
Well, look, I mean, for 20, 30 years, you and I have been doing things together, and all those times I was at the House of Justice every Martin Luther King Day. Right. Sometimes they were nice to me, sometimes I get yelled at.
And you handled being heckled, and you handled being applauded.
Yes, and I got both there. There's different strategies of how you go about it. Part of it is just how I feel. I mean, you can't role play everything. I'm in there, and I meet Abdul, and I'm going to talk to him. I don't plan in advance what I'm going to say to him, but just how the conversation goes, and sometimes you're in this mood, sometimes you're in that mood.
Let me ask you this, and then I want to get to Abdul because I'm glad that he's with you. The stop and frisk, you've apologized, you said you've regretted it. How do we repair some of the damage? Is this what you're working with people?
Well, I think part of the answer is I've sat down with groups of clergy and business people, African Americans mostly, and asked their advice and asked for forgiveness, but listened to what they had to say. And everybody's got different views. I think what is clear is we had a policy. I was trying to stop 650 murders in New York City. The policy got carried away, and when I realized it, stopped it, cut 95% of it, and then apologized. I've tried to meet with people who have been stopped and people who their friends have been stopped to learn what it's like. I never had the experience, and my daughters were never stopped. So I can't tell you that I was that close, and that's what I'm trying to fix. I'm trying to go to people who've been there, done that, and can tell me what it's really like, because when I talk to people whose sons and daughters were stopped, you get a very different feeling than just the academic thing. You got to get close enough, and I spent a good time yesterday with him talking about his experiences and being incarcerated and coming back, and he's devoted his life to making it better for a lot of people, and he's got a lot more experience at this than I.
Now, and you said in Tulsa that if you had been black, you probably would have had a different life.
I think there is no question we have a racial divide in this country, which I have talked about ad nauseum, and there's no excuse for it, and we're not doing enough about it.
Contrast you and Donald Trump, how you handle race. You said statements.
Well, I can't speak for him. I mean, he's just off the charts.
But I mean, in terms of policy.
My father, I told the story before, he wrote a check to the NAACP when I was a young kid sitting at the dining room table, and I said, why are you writing a check to them? And he said, because discrimination against anybody is discrimination against everybody. And that's the lesson that my parents taught me. They were, we didn't grow up wealthy. I made all my money. My father made $6,000 the best year of his life. But I've always grown up thinking that, if there's anti-black, there's going to be anti-Jewish, there's going to be anti-everything. And I wouldn't want it directed at me. And one of the ways to stop it is make sure I don't direct it at somebody else. And in my company, foundation, City Hall, we had a large number of different minorities, and you got to understand people. I think this country has unfortunately become more segregated, and I think that the President of the United States should be able to take this country in the other direction, and this president is not trying.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.